For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. JD Swanson. I'm a 6-dan with the ISKF. I'm also on the East Coast Technical Committee for that organisation. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, so I'd like to thank both Desmond and Senate for the invitation. I think things like this, like Sunday Morning Budo sessions, I've been offering classes throughout the entire pandemic. Karate at home, all of those kinds of things have been really instrumental in keeping us together. And I think that's critical, important, and I really just huge shout out to those who've been doing the organising, the running, and the providing of something for people to go so that you don't fall out of the habit of doing karate, right? So I'd just like to just give them a shout out. Thank you for really rolling that out. So what I want to do today is we're going to do, in talking a little bit with Desmond, we talked about doing a couple of things. He asked me, and I said, well, what would you like to do? And it was sort of an idea of sort of a mishmash between sort of basics mixed with Kumite. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through, and we're going to go through some Kihon, some basic, but we're going to do it in terms of doing some of Kanazawa Sensei's Kihon Ippon Kumite. I started out in SKIF with Kanazawa Sensei. We're going to do those, but then what we're going to do is we're going to then relate and really think about what those teach us and then relate those into Jiu Kumite, okay, and bring them up as a drill and think about how they relate and how they connect. And what I would like you to do is, I can plant a seed or an idea for you. What I would like you to do is in the future, in your continued training, is think about those drills that you do with instructors and think about how you can make them into your own and what they're really after. It's not about just the movement or just the shape. It's about the principle that's behind it. So that's the theme really for today as you go through and you train with me. So enjoy, have fun, and also if you have questions, do not be afraid to ask. The worst thing that happens is I burst into tears, run out of the room because it's too hard. Okay? Okay, hey, Sudach. Hey, I like us. Sorry, I'm just laughing with the big us sign. That was tremendous. Thank you so much. Arms forward, hey. Good, opposite direction. Good, out and back. Out and in. Good, rolling over. Switch. Good, switch. And switch. Good, rolling forward. Let the knees just sort of bounce just from side to side, just be controlled. Let them stretch a little into the adductors. Good, making Zenkutsu to the left. Just relaxing down. Ball of foot. Dropping down, knee goes to the floor. Go into your instep, toe heel of your front foot out, hand flat, and just relax up. Good, roll it all the way over to the heel. Switch, Zenkutsu. Ball of foot. Dropping down, knee down, instep down, toe heel, and just relax. Roll it over. Good. Just coming to the center again. Point your feet out, making shikodachi, dropping down. Good. Hands flat. Straighten your legs. Roll on up. Hips. Get a little bit more synovial fluid rolling in those joints. Other way. Good. From here, just grab a piece of wall or something that you can lean on. Just pushing down just into your calf. So straight leg, straight hip. Push your hip underneath. And just stretching through the calf, through the gastrocnemius. Switch. Switch. This time from here, allow the knee to bend. That's going to lift your hip up and sort of kink it out. But then push your heel back down. You'll feel the stretch go deeper into the Achilles tendon, right into that tendon that goes down to your heel. And just relax it down. Switch. Good, in and under. Switch. Good, and up. Good, grab and hold your instep. Pulling up, so if you can, knees together, push your hip forward so it's here, just push. Need a little more, you can always grab with both hands or just switch hands. Switch. Very, very good. Good, one more time, just loosen off anything else needs loosening, arms, legs, elbows, knees, what have you. Good. So, from here, Subdach, wait, very good. So, one of the things I appreciated about growing up in SKIF, Kanazawa's organization, was that it allowed me, or they have their Kihon Ippon, their Ippon as defined techniques. So they have basically sets of 5 techniques. So for Jodan Oizuki, there's 5 specific defenses that you learn. For Chudan Oizuki, 5 specific defenses, and so on. When I went to the United States and started training with Okazaki Sensei, it was really just go and do whatever you want. And that had been my, what I'd sort of done also previously before joining Kanazawa's organization. And so the question comes in is that Kanazawa's way gives you this idea of variety, but also provides restriction. It ends up by only being tested, you only do stuff to the test. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about why specifically, we want to get into his head and really think about why he chose those 5 specific techniques, and then how we can then transfer those to be principles that we can then relate to anything that we want. Okay, and why they're going. So what you're going to see is you're going to see this progression. We're going to do them very strictly in a Kihon form, and then we're going to loosen and dirty them up as we go to teach us principles about how to move our body in reaction to a Jodan attack. That's the idea for today. And what we may do, if we get time, we'll sort of relate that into something like Han Yongdan, and we can talk about how some of these principles link in. We'll see if we have time at the end. So from here, just nice, yoi, just nice and relaxed. Our first technique, because all of these, and just setting a pretext, All of these techniques are against a right-hand side Jodan Oizuki. As if you're in Kihon, Ippon, Kumite, someone steps back, Jodan ikimasu, steps in, punch, pop, and steps, Jodan, pop. So that's the imagination, that's what you want in your head. And what I do for that is I've got this sort of funny shape on the floor. This is to show you where my feet sit. You can see where my body center moves as I move, right? So you can see if it's backwards, forwards, and that. So you've got this sort of place to be able to see it as we go. Some of these go a little bit sort of funny. So from here, our very first one, make a yoi. Very first one, very simple. From your perspective, it's just going to be stepping back with my right leg, making agyuke, rising up, then gyakuzuki to the center. So from here, very simple, just blocking, 1, 2, 3. Make it simple, make it easy for the start. Again, a little bit overpowered there. Feel it relax, feel it move. Ready? Hey. Ich. 1, 2, 3. Good, and coming up. Moichido. Ni. Good, coming up. San. And up. Shi. One more. Go. Good. So everything about Shotokan is about thinking. My old instructor back in New Zealand always used to tell me, JD, karate is a thinking person's art. So when you make agyuke, why? One of the things that I see is commonly, and Mr. Mikami used to talk about it this way, is that people constantly overuse their elbows in agyuke. When they make the block, they pull the block across and come up almost like they're wiping a windshield. How you want to think of it is more of a punch, like an uppercut, like you're going to crack somebody square under the chin. And so what happens is as this technique comes up, it sits here, as the hip rotates in, that creates this rotation of the arm. As far as my elbow is concerned, it doesn't know whether I'm making from here Kazamazuki or agyuke. It has no idea. So what you want to do is try and avoid this double action of 1, 2, right? Or even worse, 1, 2, 3. You want it to just come straight up naturally with the hip and rotate into place and connect. Allow your hip to push, allow an expansion of the rib, allow the hip to even, heaven forbid, make a little bit of an upward action as you connect that block in. From there, compress the rib, compress through the body, allow the drive of the rear leg to push into the gyakuzuki. So think straight, not this. Ready? Ish. Good. Again. Ni. Some. Shi. One more. Go. Good. Last thing to think about is think about your timing. Hip, body, legs must move together. So as you're here, feel, compress, compress. As this connects, backwards, elbow connects. Leg, hip, body, elbow, same time. Here. Same time as you punch, not, but together. Same time. You want your body center to be moving forward into the target through the entire expansion of the technique. Even in basic. Remember, this is Kihon. So it's an opportunity to get everything right. So allow that to happen as you go, yeah? One more time. 5 more. If you need to, slow it down. If you're having trouble with timing, allow it to be slow. Ish. Knee. Sun.
We're going to Jackson's house.
She. Good, and relax up. Good, so this one's easy. But it's important, because you'll see later on, to have that right path and that right course of action as the technique expands. And we'll talk about that heavily when we go into the Ippon segment, as we make that cross bridge from basic to free. Our second one, I'm going to do it facing away from you so you can see the orientation. I'm going to step out on about a 30 to 45 degree angle. It'll depend on my opponent if I had one in front of me. But you're going to step back. You're going to step back with your right leg. You're going to shift your entire body off the rails, off these train tracks, their body coming in. You're going to rotate out, making tate shito, lifting the opposite hand high. Then from here into kokutsudachi. From here, you're going to drive off the back leg, driving into zen kutsudachi, shitoichi. So from your perspective, from looking at it to you, I'm going to step back. I'm going to load it in a basic load, connecting here. Then from here, drive, push, shifting in. Everyone cool? We'll break it into 2 counts initially. Ich, then knee. Ich, knee, yeah? Hey. Drop, sink. Ich, knee. Good, coming up. Ich, knee. Back up. Ich, knee. And up. Ich, knee. And up. Let me just have a look at you all. Ich, knee. Good, one more. Ich, knee. Good, hey yummy. So a couple of things to think about. And again, I know that I throw a lot at people, I always do. But as you go, and also I know this is being recorded, so you'll be able to come back and visit it, right? So as you think about this action, a couple of things you want to think about. Number one is why back stance? Well, back stance creates a wall, right? The construction of this rear leg with the foot and the outside edge being straight, if I use my line, creates, with the opening of the hip, a solid support. It's a stop. This action, there's no more backward movement. So as you go, allow yourself not to be squishy in the knee. Don't allow it to sort of wah, this feeling, but rather feel your hip drop, connect, the leg connect into place, creating a stop. This is the purpose of kokutsu. It's to bring your body weight back, but stop it solidly. If I didn't want to do that, I would use something more along the lines of nikawashidachi. But instead, kokutsu. So feel the stop, this connect. So allow that to happen first. Second thing, with this push, with this tate shito, you can load it 1, 2. Alternatively, if you want a more natural action, just think about it like you're just tearing it like the beginning of unsu. Feel rather just this compression up, slight crossing of the arms to connect. And that's a more natural action than the classical 1-2 approach. Just allow, there. Last piece, allow the shoulder to expand back, allow the hip to push. From here, push through this hip. Feel that linear action. But what that's going to do is that's going to rotate my hip. So I'm going to rotate through this front axis of my hip. Here, here, not here in the center, but here as I drive forward. That's going to create a larger circle here with my shoulders, so allow the action of this to be very natural in the circularity of the technique, not sort of this linearization. Don't make it gyakuzuki, it's not. Allow it to be round, round, round as I rotate around this axis. Does that make sense? So be smooth with it. Don't change everything into gyakuzuki. A lot of people will do this if I do it as strict to shape. That's just gyakuzuki, gyakuzuki. Instead, feel up, expand, then whoa, this flavor through. Does that make sense? Allow the body to have that. Okay, let's try. I'll do a few this way. From here, ich, knee, 1 count. Ikyodo. Ich. Good, and up. Knee. And up. Sun. Good. One more. Shi. Good. Now, one last piece that I want you to think about is I want you to imagine that your body is a rubber band. Doing, 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 this kind of feeling. So as you make that initial load, feel here this expansion across the chest to literally linearize this technique. Don't think of the tate shito as coming round in this case. Think of it as driving in to the target and you're balancing. So it's almost here, it's kind of like a stop, this feeling, rather than sort of throwing them to the side. If I threw them to the side, the rest of my hip would follow. Instead, pretend as if you're skewering them. Boink! Right? This feeling. With the other hand, allow the same pull of the shoulder, the same expansion across your chest to occur like a rubber band, and then allow that to flow in. And those that are higher ranked in the class, you can change your timing slightly of your lower to upper body. Beginners, what I want you to do is have this very clear stick, then drive, push everything together. But if you're more advanced, what you can do is you can make use of this rubber band, start driving the hip, and then let this catch up. So it ends up being here, and you build a chain to drive. Does that make sense? So you can slightly disconnect the technique, okay, into the circularity of the motion. So let's try again. Ready? 5 more, and then we'll move on to the next. Hey, hitch. Good. Again. Knee. Sun. She. Good. Double check that you're getting off the rails. Your attack is coming in here. Either side of these blue lines. Whoop. Straight towards me. So get your body out of the train tracks. If you drop it, that's suicide, right? Use taisabaki. Get your body out. Hey, 2 more. Ish. 1 more. Knee. Good, and relax up. Everyone good so far? So we have 2. One very basic, agyuke, but thinking about the path, the drive. Second one, cutting out onto this angle, feeling here, connection and stop, rotating the body, shifting the body mass in through the stance and striking. Our third one, what we're going to do, I'm going to do it from your perspective first. We're going to step out onto our left-hand side. We're going to rotate out, making heizokudachi, ageuke. So it's here, shift. From here, yoko geri kyage, load, empiuchi kibudachi. Let's try it together. Hey, ich, ni, sam. Good, and up. I'll do it your angle just so you can see the front view. Hey, we will move together. Ich, ni, load, sun. Good, and up. Good, couple little just pieces. Again, I'm just sort of watching all of you. You're all about this big, so it's like I have to use my special spidey eyes to see you. But as you go, one thing, as you step, this is the block, this is insurance. You want to double up on your insurance. Make sense? So use, whatever you do, use that covering hand. Don't just sit there and go, oh look, that's suicide, right? You're going to get killed. Anything else that comes in, or if they change angles, you're dead. Instead, feel, 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 feel. There. Then allow yoko geri kyage, because this is basic. Connect it, load it, take your time. It can be over or under, I don't care. Just load it, don't lift your shoulders. Load it, then slide in. Where you want that MP to be placed is as if you're grabbing hold. Boys are a little slower than women. So generally, well, no, I am. But where you want to have it is right here on your nipple. Grab here. That allows the shoulder to be connected. It allows it, if I change it off my nipple, notice how the MP is sort of off, or if it's over, see how it's out of alignment. If I just grab my nipple with my hand, it's right there. Shoulders down, relaxed, right where I want it to be. Opposite hand sits here. Okay, mochido. Just try and just nice and relaxed. I'll do some your way, and then we'll break down a couple of other little pieces. So think about the cover, think about the timing, think about that body shifting. Hey, each, knee, some. Good, enough. Right, so you're cutting out and coming back in. Almost like that goofy jumper Mikyo, right? Ready? Hey, each, knee, some. And back. Again. Each, knee, some. And back. Again. Each, knee, some. Good. Okay, now this is important. Why make Kyage versus Kikomi? What's the purpose of Kyage techniques? Kyage techniques differ from Kikomi techniques partially in the shape, especially in Kyage and Kikomi and Yokogiri, but they also differ in my intent, or in my mind, in their intent and their the length of time that they're in contact with the target. So when you hit something, there's multiple pieces that go on, and you've probably seen, the horribly simplified formula. I wrote it myself. P equals mv, getting momentum, mass and velocity connected, right? Well, one of the pieces that's important there is the energy piece. EK equals a half mv squared. Kinetic energy is a half mass times the velocity squared. So you hit something faster, you're going to hit it harder. The other thing that's important though is the length of time you're actually connected or touching that target. That effectively is impulse. And the difference between Kyage and Kikomi, other than slight shapes to the techniques, is actually they're all innate to minimize, if you're Kyage, the time that you're touching your target. Kikomi hits and touches for a little bit longer and then retracts to the next technique. Atewaza, the third one, is just smashing straight through the technique. So when I think about Kyage, the idea of it is that I hit my target, and it immediately, as soon as I've made the impact, I retract it very quickly. And that's one of the key things you've always learned, right? Kyage, snap the technique back. That's to maximize the impulse, so peace. What that does is that has the effect of when you hit the target doesn't push back into you as hard. You can snap it in and snap it out, so you're still on balance, but they're just sort of, they stop like this. And think about when you've hit somebody with that good frickin' maigiri Kyage, they just kind of stop and almost throw up, right? It doesn't knock them back, it just stops them. So that's what you're after here. You're using Kyage to stop the opponent in still, and then using that MP to drive in and finish them with a Kikomi style of technique, one that's solid. When you hit them with Kikomi, it hits, drives in, and it, boom, hits, they bounce back because you're in a reinforced stance, reinforced position. You end up with this kind of action. Versus Kyage, it just this. So one of the ways I like doing it, I live in America, right? It's like using a semi-automatic gun, bang, 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 and the action is taking the force of the recoil of the bullet going, right? That's Kyage. Kikomi is like a bolt action. You click it down, bang, and it kicks back into your shoulder. That's the way I think about the two. Okay? Right, so let's try that again. Think Kyage, think about that snapping in, that sort of, then drive. Okay, ready? Hey, one count, ikkyodo. Ish. Again, knee. Sun. Good, one more. Chi. Good. Just one thing to watch, I'm just seeing some of you, make sure that as you kick, make sure that you use both hips to make that expansion. Some of you are leaving this hip here, and what that does is as you kick, see how it's leaving my little toes up? The first thing that's going to hit is going to be like this toe, that one right there, and that's going to suck, right? If you want to not do that, what you need to do is use the opposite hip, right? So use this action to create the tilt. That has the effect of tilting the hip and exposing the blade of the foot. Rather than just me relying on this leg, you can see the natural action of the knee. If you end up, what some people try to do is they try to then create that turning over through this front hip to create the turn. And all you do is torque up all this, and then you need a hip replacement when you get older. You've got to use the structure of both hips to create Kyage. Does that make sense? So don't be afraid to use that rear hip. Hey, again, 2 more. Itch, knee, up, bad knee. 1 count, 1 count, 1 count. Small brain. Knee. 1 more. Sun. Good, and up. Good. So what we have is we have 3 now. First one, Agyuke Gyatsuki. Second one, expand back, drive in. Third one, Haizoko Agyuke, Yoko Geri Kyage, Yoko Empiuchi. Fourth one, this one here looks a little goofy. It'll make total sense when we put humans into it, okay? It just looks wrong when you do it like alone. So from here, what you're going to do is you're going to step back, making with your right leg, making Jodan Jujuke. Open hands is fine. So it's going to step back, 1 like so. Second technique is going to be Mawashigi, but you want to load it and hold it tight. Make sure it's loading to the back here. So as the kick comes round, it's going to be kick, then load and landing here. Last movement, drives in, making Ushiro Empi. 1 more time, as I told you, it looks goofy, right? I don't lie usually. So 1 more time, it's here, you can try it with me if you want. Step back with the right, Jodan Jujuke, itch. Now from here, rear leg comes up, make Mawashigiri, just continue through. And then you're facing away from the camera, this leg is up high. Notice the position I can put my hands in. Basically what I'm doing is I'm setting up my left hand to just simply drive back into my opponent. Here, knee. Then just drive the leg back, elbow comes with it. And then coming up. Try it again. As I say, so this is kind of weird. The Yoko Empi is not here, it's more sort of here. It's in this kind of position, so it's driving in this way, not straight back. You don't get that close to them. You end up here, okay? So the idea, if I do it facing forward, it's going to be here 1, 2, 3. This feeling. Okay? Let's try. I'm going to do it the same orientation as you, so that you can just flip quickly, look in the camera and go, oh, that's where JD is. I must be right. So I'm doing it the same way you are, even though I can't see you for some of it. Hey. Itch. Knee. Straight up. Knee nice and high. Sun. Drive back. Good, then coming up. Try again. Itch. Knee. Some. Good. And up. So a couple of little things. When I was taught this, and again, we'll talk more about it in a little while. The first sort of the Mwashigiri, if you do this with a human, it's really tight. Okay, I have long legs and short arms, I'm kind of like a T-Rex, right? So when I do this, my Juji will come here, but what I was trained to do, what I was forced to do, was to leave this foot in position. And so what that forced me to do is it forced me to come up tight and high to the back. If I load it here, the kick just doesn't work. You can't get it out. You have to load it high and tight here and then really think about it just wrapping into the target. So it actually hits, it actually doesn't make contact here, it actually makes contact back here, and it cuts really tight into the sort of the side of them rather than their front. Does that make sense? It's kind of a weird place. The other way that you do this in reality though, when you free it up, and we'll do this later, is you actually reposition this foot. You reposition it to where you want and then connect it in. Does that make sense? And you can change the technique accordingly. But we're doing a Kihon, no foot move. Okay, let's try. Ready? Hey. Ich. Ni. Some. Good. And back. So a couple of little things. Again, this is a timing one, it's hard. Watch what I'm doing with my hands. You feel like Bobby Ricky out of Talladega. What do I do with my hands? In this one, so as you go, Juju fine for most people, right? When I do Juji in my mind, I'm not just blocking something, I'm usually blocking and stabbing. It's usually that double kind of action is how I'm thinking, right? But people don't generally have a problem with that piece. Think here, up. Now from here, load, compress, make the kick. See how I'm using my knee and the drive of this to stop my rotation. Then, as I come back, watch my feet on the floor. My heel right now is on this line. As I come back, I slide my whole body back with me into that MPUge. Does that make sense? So this is a true ate waza. It's a technique that's going through the target, not just stop and not kyage. It's, and you just keep going, you know? So that's the feeling. So have here, one, connect, bomb, load, then slide. Slow it down if you need to. And again, the story that we make this later, it'll make so much more sense. Okay, ready? Hey, ish, ni, some. Good, again. And again, think about where the elbow's strong. Right? Down here, there's nothing really, oh, it's really weak. High, too high. Connect. You know? And you can feel, if you just put your hands on your chest and back, so if I'm here, I can feel my pec with my thumb, I can feel my lats with my back. As I drop my arm down, you'll find this one position when it's connected where I can feel the whole thing engage. Because all I want to do here is make a shape and rely on my body shifting back to create the damage. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go again. Hey. Ish. Ni. Some. Good. And up. Again. Ich. Ni. Some. Good. Now, just one thing. Don't be in a rush. Just like hair nidan. You see it all the time. I'm doing this move out of hair nidan because they rush it. Instead, break it down into the chunks it needs to be broken down into. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? To create the action that you want. Don't be in a rush where you start slowing your words together. Because if you slow your words together, you can't really understand what's going on. You know what I mean? Instead, clip your words and make them precise in each piece. So for hair nidan, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you go, it becomes right. You see what I mean? So it's the same here. Don't suddenly go. Instead, take your time. Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what I mean? Allow each piece to connect. Allow your hip to get into the position you want before you drive back, rather than trying to worry about the rotational piece coupled with the drive back, because you're gonna lose your balance. Okay? Take your time. Most people go too fast, myself included. Let's try again. Ready? Ich, ni, sam. Good. Again. Ich, ni, sam. Good. One more. Ich, ni, sam. Good. Okay, now, one count up to you, all the way through. Again, take your time. Go through the waypoints that you need to go through, yeah? Don't rush. Hey. Ish. And then also, as you get back up, I've just finished here, they go, oh God, I'm glad they're over and done with. Zanshin. Remaining mind, here. Boom. Keep this in, engaged. Are you ready? Knee. Good. Good, and that's better. So as I'm saying, I'm seeing some of you, as you come around, really making that effort to reconnect your center, right, in that piece, because that's important. If you don't have that rotational piece finished and that connection of your body, you can't make the drive back. And eventually what you do is your lag between the connection of the leg and the relaxation of the hip becomes smaller and smaller as you're more used to just connect go, you can use it. But initially, it's going to seem horrible. But eventually, it'll just be a round up, and it just all flows together. You see what I mean? Ready? Try. A few more. Ish. Knee. One more. Sun. Very good, and up. Good, so what we have is we have 4 now. Our first, Agyuke, Gyatsuki. Our second, cutting out on a 30-degree angle, 1, 2. Our third, cutting out to the other side, Agyuke, Yokogiri, Impyuch. Our fourth, coming back, Jujuke, Mawashigiri, Impyuch. Let's do our fifth. Our fifth one is fairly easy, kinda. So from here, all I want you to do is step back, making Agyuke, step back with your right leg. Ich. Now from here, simply square your hip. That will shift your leg back. Don't push. Just rotate the hip here. Almost like in Nidan, yeah? Just feel here, shift. Then Jodan Maegiri, follow through Age Empi Uchi, and then up. So one more time. Ich, Agyuke, shift the hip back, knee, Jodan Maegiri, followed with Age Empi Uchi. Sun, 1, 2. Good, and up. Easy? Okay, let's have a look at a few. Ich, knee, 1, 2, 3. Good, and up. Ich, knee, 1, 2, 3. Good, and up. Sun, pump. Shigorok. Good, and up. So, when you do this with folks from the SKIF, at least when, in my experience, there was a lot of focus on here, and what we're talking about this time on this shift of the hip back. It's very important. In Heian Nidan, for example, you really think about this idea of the shift, this rotation, keeping the shoulder here and connecting in. This sort of feeling, the leg comes back, but this shoulder remains in place. What you're doing here by making that shift back is allow the hip, allow the body to come back, to create distance. And when it was described to me, if you do this with a human, and you lock, they finish out and you block them wrist to wrist as you're supposed to in Kihon waza, what you're going to find, if you don't do that shift, you're going to come up with the maigiri and you're just going to run out of room. You're not going to be able to execute that kick. By creating the room with the hip, leaving this here, creating that room, this now provides the room to be able to make the Jodan maigiri. Does that make sense? So you're going to take advantage of that. Here, make that room, come in, then as you make the kick, don't feel like this hip has to remain down and pushing this way. Allow your rib cage to expand, allow the hip to push, allow this rear ass muscle, rear butt muscle. Got to watch my language. Use your rear butt muscle to allow this tilt with the rib cage expanding to allow it to drive in. Does that make sense? And if, in case you're wondering where you get that sort of, this big sort of bellows kind of effect of the rib cage, tiki nidan. Right here, feel, and that drop, you know what I mean? This expansion here. If you hold your elbows together and lift, try and hold them, you can feel all this whoop, like a set of bellows, and then you use that to collapse down into the opponent. So it's the same here. Create this feeling. And then, of course, now I can contract those bellows to whatever other technique I want. You see what I mean? We're just stopping at the yagi. Let's try. So really think about the hip pulling back and think about that pulling your body center back, back, back to create the room for what you want for the next technique. 3 counts again. Ich, knees, good. And up. And as you make the yagi, it's going to be super tempting to put it all into this. Put it into this. Like when people make kazami. Look, man, I'm doing kazamazuki. No, drive under. This is the action you want, not this. Does that make sense? Use the same here. Drive it under to make that drive and expand through the rib cage. Again. Ich, knee, good, enough. One more. Ich, knee, and up. One more. Ich, knee. That's a good, and son, sorry. I'm the world's worst counter, as you can tell. Just one thing, check your arguke. Don't suddenly let what you learned in the first one suddenly go, oh, that's right, I'm doing something else, I'm going to forget everything else we did. Right? Because here's what happens. You're done. You know what I mean? You want, ideally with Agyuke, this. Everything's covered. Look at my elbow positioning. Look at my elbow positioning. The whole time, everything's covered through the block. You see what I mean? And if I come over, I'm covered here, but no, now I'm not. You see what I mean? So you've really got to think about this, getting this hand up in front of your face quick. And if you come in and up, it creates a delay in this arm getting up to cover your face. And that's the issue, right? Mikami Sensei was always very sort of, this is how you want to think about it. Think about here and just bring it. Bring it. And even in basic, you know, whichever way you load it, keep. See how I'm covered throughout the entire action, whereas I'm not. You see what I mean? So it's just, you know, just playing on that and breaking. Don't be afraid to really think and break down even those basic techniques the way that we've always done it. I've learned across and up. I've learned here, and there are times where it's appropriate to bring it across. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying when they're right in front of you, you want this action. You want this action in the block. Does that make sense? You want those elbows connected and up. If you're rotating to this side, that's a different story. It must come across to come up. It makes almost a gedanbarai kind of shape. The Agike changes. You see what I mean? So don't be afraid. Just know when's appropriate, when each one's appropriate. Okay, ready? Agike. Ich. Ni. And up. Ich. Ni. Ikkyodo, one count through the whole thing. Ich. Good. Control your elbows. Don't become Dr. Or Mr. Floppy elbows or Miss Floppy elbows. So as you're here, boom, boom. Right? Keep them connected. Cover your center. Boom, pull, pull. Right? Always covered. Always covered. The in-between, and if you notice, I really think about not shape, but pathway. The pathway and the intent will end up in the right shape. But you've got to get the pathway, especially most of you are downgrades that are in the room. If you get nothing else from me, think about that path. Think about the action that takes. That's really important. Control the pieces. Again, one count. Ish. Good, yeah. Again. Me. Good. Timing. Really feel when that drive of this hip is coupled. Explode. Make it together. Not separate. One big explosion. One more. Sheep. Good. Double check your agiempi. Make sure it's coming up through the center, right? You don't want it to be going up on the side. Make sure center. And that's just an adjustment of the hip to mahame, to full half face, yeah? Hey, ready? Go! Good. Just watch, make sure you're not getting excited. Right, from here going, ooh, and then wrong angle. Up, path of the elbow, straight up. One more. Look. Good. Hey, and relax. So what we have is we have 5, and this is the end. This is all the new material you're going to get. Well, in terms of what we're thinking about. So what we have is we have 5 different ways to defend ourselves from Jodan Oizuki in a Kihon, Ippon, Kumite sense. That's what we have so far. So when you do this in Kihon, Ippon, Kumite, think about the basics, think about the fundamentals. And that's what I've been reinforcing to you all the way through that we've been doing this, yeah? I haven't been introducing anything new. I've just asked you to think about the fundamentals as we go. Timing, connection, elbow path, things like that. So what we've got, let's go through all 5 and make sure they're fixed in all of our brains, because goodness knows I'll forget because I'm an idiot, okay? You ready? Let's move through them one by one. I'm going to do them in the same orientation as you so you can follow. I'm also going to go about half speed, not so that you can follow me. This is all about me training. I'm going to go half speed so that I can ensure that my timing is correct, that my fundamentals are correct, and you should do the same. Ready? Hey, first one, Agyuke Gyatsuki. Ich. Good, so as I went through that in my own training, because I'm training, every punch I do, I'm training. What I was thinking about was as I punched, I felt in that particular repetition, I felt this hip come back slightly. And what that does, if this hip comes back slightly, this one still came forward, but I felt this drop back a little bit. What that meant was that I stepped too far back in my stance. This hip needed to come back a little bit to compensate for that, and then I managed to drive through, so I did not get full drive into that punch that I particularly wanted. That's my analysis of something so basic and how I just did it wrong. You should do the same. Does that make sense? There is nothing wrong with doing things. We're all on a path. It's about creating that full and complete character. And then about the next one. The very next one says, be truthful to ourselves. That's what I'm doing. And that way, my karate gets better. Okay, let's go again. Agi-uke again because I did it wrong. Go slow, relax, get it right. Think about it. Your mistakes will be different, and that's okay. Hey. Itch. That's better. Second one, I'm going to cut this angle. Tate shito shito ichi. Ko kutsurachi to zenkutsu. Feel that body weight transition coming forward. Feel the connection of the kokutsu. Ichi. Ni. Good, that felt good. It's very hard for the idiot not to count between each one. Just go at your own pace, ignore me. Next one, rolling out, 30 degrees. Agi-uke into Haizukudachi, Yoko geri Kyage, shifting into Kibadachi, Yoko empi uchi. Ich. Fourth one, stepping back, Jujuke, Mawashi geri coming all the way around, connecting to the front, driving back into Zenkutsu, Ushiro empi. Ich. And the fifth one, stepping back, Agi-uke, shift my hip back, drive forward, Jodan maigiri, Age and Buchi into Zenkutsu-dachi. Go! Good. Okay, your turn. 5 counts, 5 different techniques. I'll call them out. Ready? First one, Age-gyaku. Ich! Good. And again, as you make that punch, don't, and we all do this, think, this, not, don't let this go. Just this. Okay, second one. Knee. Good. Again, let the body relax in the strings. Doing and through. Right? Let it go loose. Third one. Pop, pop, pop. Sun. Good. One more. Oh, sorry, 2 more. Pop, mawashi geri round and empi. She. Very good. Last one. Back. 1, shift, agi and pyuch. Maigiri, shift, agi and pyuch. Go. Excellent. Hey, yummy. Everybody good? Okay, so what we're going to do, let's have a one. Oh, by the way, sorry, when Desmond and I talked, he said it was okay for me to go right up to for another half hour, right? That's good with everyone? Good, okay, yeah. Sorry if this is like, surprise! So if you can't, don't worry, this is being recorded. So what I'd like, 1 minute water break, go grab one because we're going to reset now from thinking about our technique and getting that right to now functionalizing this. Okay, so 1 minute break, be quick like a bunny, grab a drink. Hey, us. "30 seconds. Ooh, it's kind of like we're at a tournament. Toshibaraku. Yeah, anyway. Okay, let's go. Okay, so the next step, what I want to do is let's now link all this together. Okay, so what we've done so far is this has given us an opportunity to really think about our basic technique, our fundamental technique. It's about placing feet, it's about thinking about the underlying body movement. What we're going to do now is we're going to now relate this in against a human, but in a free movement kind of action, a Jiu. So the first thing you need to let go of is only use the motions that are actually functionally necessary. Does that make sense? So for Ganambarai, for example, if I'm here and a kick's coming in, I'm not going to and block it. I'm just going to be here, connect my butt and hit. Right? It's just going to drop into that kick. So but then if they're going to punch me in the face, well then I'm going to use the cover. Right? So if it's Jodan punch then a kick, 1, 2, right? It's going to come in this way. Only use the pieces that you need. That's my first advice. Second thing, in your basic technique, for example, Agyuke, I argue that all of our basic blocks, Ganambarai, Age, Soto, Uchi, Shuto, begin at some point within the action from Kamae. You can see. So as you make these actions, don't feel like you've got to take it back to square one to make the action. Does that make sense? Let it go from where it needed to go. And this is, I argue that this hand here is Agyuke halfway there. You see what I mean? It's just here, click, there. Also, you don't need to make the complete technique. You just need the action that the technique is teaching you. You don't need to make here. Agyuke can simply be here, or it can be here, Nagashike. You see what I mean? So it's not about the final position that matters. It's about the body movement that you use to create that final position that's important. So when I think of Agyuke Gyakuzuki, sure, I could make it here, but in a free situation, I'm going to be dead. I'm going to get killed at some point. What I'm going to use instead is I might go to here, right? But even that's still, all this is open. Instead, what I might do, I might change Agyuke from being all the way up here to understanding what I've learned from doing the basic to be just here or here. Does that make sense? So that's what we're going to kind of do. So our first one, if you just start from Kamae, and what we're thinking about, the fundamentally important pieces of that first one is getting you to make Hame and Shomen. The other thing that it's forcing you to do is it's forcing you to push off this leg, or alternatively, when you land, to push off this leg, right? To make the stance. Then rolling in. There's nothing to say that you can't combine them, you can't separate them, you can't use one leg over the other. All you have to do is move your hips, move your elbow in concert with your hips, and then throw a punch, or throw them together. So, the first one, my interpretation when we're actually using it, might be either, if I want to break it into two actions, I might say that I've got one of those super aggressive, angry people coming in. It's like, oh my God, they're so angry and they're coming in and it's scary. And I decide to just outwind them, plant and then drive. Well, I might use that as the fundamental piece here. I come in, I either make Age, I may make Nagashi, I make Nagashi the other side, but I just connect. Then from here, drive in. So it's this idea of simply, or it might be, if I change the timing. That fundamental action helps you with either of those. So, your choice. You can shift in. The reason I need to run if I'm shifting in, I need to throw them both at the same time because of the timing. If I'm moving back, I'm absorbing them and then driving in. All I did was change the time of the technique. Your choice. But don't forget the fundamentals you just worked on. Make sense? All of those good pieces. Let's try it. So from Jiu, hey, your choice. Mix them up. Just play with it. Isha, Ni, Sam, Shi, Good, one more. Cue. One more. Keep an eye on your elbow. Don't let that sneak out. This is 6 inches of time that you've lost. Does that make sense? Keep here. 2 more. Go. Oh. Good. So number 1's easy, isn't it? Right, relatively. But you can see that connection. Number 2 in the basic was about cutting this angle, cutting to this side, expanding through the body, and then rotating in. So the second one says, if my opponent is stepping in with their right hand, it doesn't really matter, but if they're stepping in with their right hand, they're going to end up opening this side. This is going to be their open side, closed side, and so forth. So with this one, what it's saying is it's saying cut the angle to the open side. Pull your body weight backwards to create the room that you need. It's telling you to cut the angle. It's teaching you this idea. Does that make sense? The first one was about shifting back and forth. This second one is talking about from here, cutting the angle. 1 and drive in, or 1 and 2. You can do away with the shitouchi if you want. We're going to get into a more fun one in a second. But from here, feel that angle, feel the hip, drive, and this hand just keeps. This hand just remains in its insurance. Then, I've got this weight back, I can now connect it forward. Does that make sense? So use this to ride out, right back in. And notice how smooth my feet are able to shift on the floor. Very different in feeling. You can make shitouchi like we did in the basic. You can make it gyakuzuki, it's your flavor. But we're going to add some layers to this. It's like an onion. Okay? Ready? First few. We're going to cut out on this angle. It's 1, 2. And then expand back. Knee, 1, 2. Cut back. Sun, 1, 2. Back. Good. Okay, but that's sort of boring, right? So think about it. When you're in Kumite, and if you're here, and if you're going to cut an angle, and you kind of cut back anywhere between sort of, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, if you're here and sort of float back this way, what do they usually do? They usually float after you, don't they? They usually continue on, right? They just sort of follow you. So what you might want to do is instead of just cutting this sort of shorter angle, or this floaty angle backwards, think about cutting a sharp angle to here. Think about cutting an even sharper angle to here. Don't be locked into this idea of just 30 degrees. This idea, this particular one, is about the idea of cutting not just back like in the basic, it's about cutting an angle either back, side, forward, wherever you need it to go, to cut round and play with that idea. The other thing that becomes important here is notice how we had another hand. In the basic, it was both hands are engaged as you come back, whether you load it traditionally or just by pushing up and back. Notice how this rear hand's engaged. If I'm going to cut that deeper angle, what I'm going to do is as I go, I'm going to use this front hand to shut down the one on the hip as I move. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about this blocking any kind of attack coming in. I'm going to basically use the block, the step or the angle to shut down this hand. The other hand will go through. And this tate shuto is not going to hit them on the arm. It's going to hit them across the carotid artery. Boom, in. So the technique would come in, use this front hand, the one that we normally load with, use that, and then you can see now tate shito hitting in across the neck, and then next technique driving in. See how it changes? Because I'm now cutting the angle forward, it brings me closer to my opponent, which means I can use that tate shito earlier. Does that make sense? If only I had another human, if only I had Mike in the room, I could hit him. Right? But because I'm now not floating away from them where I'm worrying about the arm, I'm now cutting in, shutting them down, and hitting. Then the next technique comes in. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to give you one more level as well. Ready? So just think, just try. Play the different angles. Ich, 1, 2. That's nice and easy. That's what we're used to. Knees, shut it down. Hit. And in. Sun, stay there. Behind. Hit them in the back of the neck. Down they go. Chi. Good. One more. Go. Good. Excellent. So everyone gets that idea, right? The last piece to this is why make shidouchi? Why was Kanazawa Sensei so sort of, make this weird kind of, most of you are just making gyatsuki, which is okay, right? That's our bread and butter. If we come through gyaku, there's something wrong, right? Well, think about it this way. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the angle, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make here and just keep it going. I'm never going to lock myself into this position. My whole thing is just going to be clear the space and step and drive through them. So what you want here is you want that beautiful angular technique. You want your body center to literally just as you go, you make that shift back, feel it change and go. Almost a sigh-like. Feeling 1, 2 as you go through. And allow the angle of the hip, the angle of the body to go through with the technique. Notice I'm using that expansion and cutting down and in. I'm not just waving my hands. I'm not making this. Hey-ya! It's not this, it's this. There goes the next. Okay, so try to flow it this time. And think, shidouchi. Each. Knee. So use this as insurance. This clears everything. Some. Gotta watch my mirror. She. Use your body. Go. Make sense? So this has now expanded that basic. The things that we learned that were critical. Get out. Use the body weight transition. Use the stretch of the body. All of that comes into play. So what we have, if we make this into a kata now, what we've got is the following. Our first move, ich, knee, or knee, or knee. It doesn't matter, right? This is your kata. To practice in real fluid movement, the basic. I'm just giving you options. Okay, so from here, let's practice our kata. We've got 2 moves. Ready? Ich, knee. Good. Now our third one was about this idea this time. We're coming in, they're stepping in presumably with their right. This is all made up, right? It's all fake anyway. So they're stepping in, they're punching with their right. This time we're stepping to their closed side. So this time, what we're going to do, and they come, boom, I'm going to end up, so this they're closed, I'm going to come out to this side. So what this is this says the idea, and there's multiple ways you can do it. It's about making the distance with this leg, using the other leg to kick, to come in and stop them dead. So there's 2 techniques you could use here. Either you can use Kyage, this move, or Kikome, and skewers them. Your choice. But the thing that's important here is understanding this idea that this foot controls the distance and the angle. That's what Kanazawa Sensei was getting at. And by having you go all the way to Haizoko, allowed you to make the distance and create the wave in the technique that you need to throw the technique. If I do it and leave my hips here, I've got no mass to drive behind the kick. So by coming to Kanazawa in a basic session versus in a freer flow action drive. You see what I mean? This is what we're after. So use that first leg to place, connect, and then let the rest go. Boom. And then after the kick, you can make MP, you can make Gyakuzuki, you can make Arakan. It doesn't matter. It's wherever they are, you hit them with whatever technique's there. You see what I mean? Or whatever's open. The purpose is in stopping them and cutting that different angle. Ready? Let's try. Itch. Good. Kyage kikomi, doesn't matter. Just make sure you have the reinforcement in the leg. And when I say that, if I'm going to make Kyage, I don't need this bottom foot, doesn't need to be reinforced into the target because the kick just goes, boop, it just stops. If it's kikomi, I need to reinforce this leg. So it can push. You see what I mean? That's the difference between Kyage and kikomi. Here, I'm firing my semi-automatic weapon. The action takes up the force. When I fire kikomi, I need to explode. I need to drive. You see the difference? To be able to take the recoil back into me. Okay, ready? Hey, cutting the angle. Where are we going? This side, okay. Hey, it's this side, yeah. So a front leg will shift. Ish. Good. Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, so it's going out here on our left. Hey. Some. Good, reset. Left leg's forward, left leg's going to drive. Place it where it needs to be placed to be able to effectively do the kick. Some. She. One more. Go. Good, excellent. Does this make sense? Everyone good? Okay, so what we've got now is we've got a kata that looks like this. Edge, knee, or wherever you want to go. Sun, front leg, shift the other side. Let's try it. I'll do it same angle as you. Where you turn, up to you. We're all going to be in different places because our opponents are either more or less aggressive. We may cut a deeper or a shorter angle. That's okay. It's about the movement. It's about how we get there. Try it. Itch. Knee. Good. Some. Good. Try again. Itch. Knee. Some. Good. Okay, our next one. You're actually starting in our kata. You're actually starting now with our right leg forward. Right, left, no matter. One of them is going to be a step. This next one is about the idea of driving straight in. So the first one was either about sort of a sen no sen kind of meeting, right? You know, you both throw the pies at the same time, splat, pom, or go no sen, drive back, push forward. The second one is definitely a go no sen. Here, expand back, drive in, or coming around, bang, and hit. The third one is definitely a go no sen. It's about here, there, as they're coming in. This fourth one is straight sen no sen, or even sen no sen. As soon as they're even thinking of going, you just frickin' nail them. And what this is, the easiest way to put it, if I do it with the correct leg forward, which is our left,
All we're doing here, remember it was this jujuke coupled with moashigiri and then through empty. If we just take away all of the stuff, and you don't even have to make moashigiri, you can make kirigiri, cutting kick. Just cut it up on the 45. It doesn't matter. All you're doing here, they're coming in, you're going to use that jujuke 1-2, this kind of nice trapping action. And you're just going to step, bang, and just step and drive. It's just coming straight through and keeping these hands here. Notice how they resemble jujuke. You keep your hands up. I'm completely covered. Kick, pa, then drive. They're right here. Does that make sense? It's even simpler. And you want to flow this. You don't want to make it sort of, I am doing shotokan karate. Here I go. Here I come. Just make it dirty. Just think, I'm going to kick you with this leg so hard you're going to double over and cry. All I do is I see, boom, there. There's my target. You see what I mean? Just let it go. So let's try it from the left leg forward, which is different from our kata. In our kata, we've got our right leg. In this, you place this wherever it needs to be to get your body on that slight angle, usually about 15 degrees off and forward, to be able to create what we want. For here, I can do it here if they're really close. I can be here, just step it and go. Again, you're covered the entire time. There's nothing that says in your jujuke that you can't use this as a cover and this just stabs them in the eyes as you go past, or punches them in the throat as you go past, or gets their attention upstairs while the kick comes underneath and guts them. Does that make sense? This hand's covering, this is hitting. That's jujuke. You see? So, and again, go up like this, covered in. Ready? Itch. Then you can drive. So again, still left leg forward. Knee. One more. Left leg forward still. Sun. Okay, now from here, right leg forward. This is how we're doing it in our kata. So from here, now just place this leg wherever you want it to go. You can make a full step. You can make a half step. You can make just this and just throw it off the front if you want. It doesn't matter. Depends how close your opponent is. But the idea is the same. Here they are. Make a cut, boom, then through. Ready? Ish. Knee. One more. Sun. Good. Let's go through our whole kata now. So edge, of course. Knee. However you want to do it. Sun. Shi. Let's try. Ready? 4 counts. Each. Knee. Some. Shi. Try again. See how they flow together and see how each one serves a different purpose. Coming in and meeting or just riding out to come in. Second one, cutting the angle to their open side. Third one, cutting the angle to their closed side and skewering them. Fourth one, coming straight in on that beautiful tight angle and gutting them on the way through. Fifth one, real easy. It's all in this. It's here. Your legs are probably longer than somebody's arms. The jujuke remains out in front. This is what's keeping their attention. You could make it kazami. You could make it a stab to the eyes. You can make it a block. Doesn't matter. But the idea here is the classic pull, kick, drive. That's simple. And we've all done this at one point or another. And they come, ride them out, hit, and done. And you can, from here, step, this. How far this leg comes back is up to you. If they're far away, a little bit. If they're really if they're really driving in on top of you, take it back and fire. It doesn't matter. You see what I mean? It's about this leg controlling that distance from you to your opponent and how far your center goes back before it drives in. So it's a simple foot switch. So it's here. Just think, you can throw kazami if you want. You can throw this other hand to help whip this hip round and drive. This kind of action. In case you're wondering, with the one that I threw gyakuzuki there, right, so it was here, I threw gyakuzuki at this point, immediately relaxed and threw it again. All I'm doing there is applying kankusho. Kankusho says, relax, relax. That allows me to immediately re-engage. Instead of pump, 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 relax, boom, and go. So let's try it. We're here, control the distance. You can make yakuza, you can make kazama, it doesn't matter. The principle is this. You see? Ready? Ish! Knee! Some! She! Good, so make sure you're coming back. Remember, it's riding that punch out. Throwing this up so they just sort of check. Oh, there. Now they're in distance. Now this is in distance. As my body weight shifts back, kicks, shifts forward. See how I'm controlling it? This is the important piece. This is what Kanazawa thought was important. This. Not what you're doing with your arms or legs, but what you're doing with your center. Okay, 2 more. Ish. 1 more. Knee. Very good. So let's do our complete kata. Okay, which summarizes everything that's important within those fundamentals. Right, so you can see what we've done is we've stripped them away to their core to now be able to apply what we've learned in Kihon Ippon Kumite directly to Jiu Kumite. And herein lies its value. So, our basics or our kata is that first one comes in, counter. Second one, cut the angle, however you want to cut it. Third one, cut the angle, leave the insurance there, make sure it's there, make the drive. Fourth one, just go straight through them. Fifth one, pull the angle back and hit. And then reset. Ready? Let's try it. And mix it up. Hey, we're going to go through only once because I am out of time. Ready? First one. Ish, pull, push. Knee, 1, 2. Sun. She. Go. And reset. Hey, yummy. Some Dutch. Right. Good. Arms forward. Backwards. Out and in. Over the side. Switch. Zinko ball foot. Heel. Zinko ball foot. Heel. Up. Hips. Another way. Good. So what my hope today has been that I've really helped you kind of go on a path. Number one, by pointing out my mistakes. I make many and often. But the thing is that I try to correct them. Every single time I punch, how can I make this better? How can I correct it? How can I fix it? Because my body type sucks for karate. It's hard for me to do this. And that's what's cool about it. That's what I love about it. The second thing is that I hope that I've shown you or started to lay out for you that union between Kihon was a fundamental technique and how it applies, how the lessons, when you strip away what your arms and legs are doing to what your center's doing, what your hips are doing, how that directly applies to free sparring and how you can make that connection, that bridge from one to the other, right? So things that we think and we sometimes devalue are really important. So with that, once again, thank you so much, Sensei. Thank you, Desmond, for the invitation. I really appreciate it. So awesome to see new people and meet new friends. Okay? Hey.
Yes.
Mitsudachi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, JD Sensei.